Hello, 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 and welcome to this edition of the Jolly Heretic. Now, today I would like to talk about our utterly corrupt Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and specifically I'd like to talk about... What's that? What's that, Ed? What's that, Ed? Why are you dressed in a thoroughly 18th century fashion? Why are you dressed as though you were Britain's first Prime Minister, Robert Walpole? Why? I can tell you the answer to that. The answer is that it seems to me we have perhaps the most financially corrupt Prime Minister of the UK since Sir Robert Walpole between 1721 and 1742. He was notorious for bribery, he was notorious for financial shenanigans, and he was the Prime Minister. And now we have surely the most, clearly financially corrupt Prime Minister since then, and that is what I want to talk about today. Before I do so, would you please subscribe? Could you subscribe on YouTube, and could you subscribe on my Substack, thejollyheretic.com, where if you like what I do, you can support me for the cost of a pint of beer a month, and that's where I put all of the most basic stuff I don't put on YouTube, in-person interviews, vlogging, movies I make, all kinds of stuff. So please, over there on thejollyheretic.com, if you support what I do. Okay, back to the video. So, why the wig? Yeah, well, Robert Walpole. Utter corruption. I don't think there's ever been a government that's sunk so far so quickly that has done if you've ever done amateur dramatics, you will know the concept of the person that does a good audition. You'll get someone that does a good audition, and they come across well, and then you get them on stage and they can't dance, they can't sing, they can't move about, they block other people, they're useless, and they have to be sacked. And I think this is almost certainly what you have with Keir Starmer. He makes John Major look exciting. He makes John Major look like a highly inspiring leader. But worse than that, not only is he utterly boring, he is utterly corrupt. It truly boggles the mind. What has come to light is that I should explain to our American viewers, in the UK, members of Parliament who receive gifts of over £300 in a calendar year have to declare that gift in the Register of Members' Interests. He was allowed to use the penthouse, London penthouse of a wealthy peer called Lord Alley. You can imagine why he got that peerage. Called Lord Alley. The penthouse is valued £80 million. He eventually declared that he used this penthouse, and the accommodation was to the value of £20,000. And when asked to justify why he did this, he said it was during the election campaign, and his house was besieged with journalists, and it was so his son could have somewhere quiet to revise for his GCSEs, that is to say, his secondary school examinations. Now, let's put aside the fact that there are loads of children that live in utterly dysfunctional households and have nowhere to revise for their GCSEs, other than their noisy house. Let's put aside the fact that there are plenty of children of that age that don't even have their own bedroom in which to revise for their GCSEs. Let's put all that aside. His counter-argument is, surely you're going to go to the wall for your children. You're going to do everything you can for your children. Surely you're going to make sure your children have a nice place in which to revise for their GCSEs. Well, the counter-argument is it's just a kind of corruption, isn't it? This is a government that is against private schools, that is against parents using their resources to allow for a better standard of education for their children. They're against that. And that's why they are putting VAT on private school fees. But yet the Prime Minister of that government says that, well, he'll do everything he can. He'll use all the contacts he has, including his extremely rich friends, to help ensure that his son gets good educational results and passes his GCSEs with flying colours. So it's one rule for him. He is allowed to use basically his influence, basically the people he knows, basically the old boys network, basically the network of money. He is allowed to use that to assist with a better standard of education for his son, but other parents are not. Other parents know they must pay VAT on private school fees, which will stop a lot of them from being able to use private schools. So you can see the hypocrisy of this. You can see that it doesn't look good, that it sort of stinks of corruption, really. If you know the right people, you take advantage of it, which is exactly the kind of thing that Labour, the party of equality, indeed the party of equity, is supposed to be opposed to. But worse than that, let us not forget, he is putting VAT on private school fees. Now, what that is doing is it is forcing parents, anticipating this problem, to withdraw their children from private schools. In many cases, during the 2-year period of their GCSEs. In other words, his policies are he said, "Oh, I had that I took this gift, remember, this gift to the value of £20,000, this gift from my rich friend, in order to ensure that my son would have a nice place to revise for his GCSEs. But I didn't want to disrupt my son's GCSE revision because of the election. Yet he is disrupting the GCSEs of thousands of pupils who are at private schools. He is forcing them to change schools during their GCSEs. He is forcing the psychological headache of that. He is forcing them to have to make all kinds of new friends, to lose their old friends during their GCSEs. He is putting massive financial pressure on the parents that keep the kids in the private schools, thus creating difficult environment, arguments and things like this during their GCSEs. So he is perfectly happy to ruin the GCSEs of other kids, to bring in policies that disrupt their GCSEs, while accepting a gift from a wealthy donor, a substantial gift, I mean a gift that is the salary of a working man, to accept that gift, so that his precious, darling son can have somewhere to revise for his GCSEs away from there being media men outside the house. I mean, the hypocrisy is absolutely incredible. The corruption is absolutely incredible. It is one rule for everybody else, and it is another rule for him. And when this was put to him by Beth Rigby from Sky News, he said, "What are you saying, that I shouldn't have tried to ensure that my son had the best opportunities possible?" Well, no. But yet you shouldn't. You fine. Use your money and use your rich friends and their basically bribery, because they're bound to want something in return, to ensure that your son is assisted with his GCSEs in revision or whatever. But then don't take away that opportunity from other people. But that's exactly what you do. But worse still, you may remember that the Labour Party were all pro-lockdown in a certain thing that we can't mention on YouTube, and wanting to keep people in their houses for years and all this sort of thing completely unnecessarily. And in December 21, where the advice and what the Labour Party were going on about is that you should not leave your house unless absolutely necessary, it is quite clear that he did his broadcast on this subject from Lord Ali's house. So he was telling everybody else, stay at home, don't go out, but yet he quite unnecessarily was doing this broadcast from somebody else's house. Therefore, he was being gifted the use of that house at the time, and this is not something which he declared in the Register of Members' Interests. Moreover, he changed the decoration behind him to make, with photographs of his kids and things like this, to make it look like he was broadcasting from his own house, when he wasn't. So it seems rather more likely, considering this obvious lie, that he was trying to lie to people that he was at home when he wasn't, because he had advised people to stay home, and yet he was not staying home, and he was corruptly taking this accommodation without declaring it in the Register of Members' Interests. It seems rather more likely that this GCSE explanation is just emotionally manipulative bollocks. It is an attempt to shut down debate, so that he can turn around if you question him and say, surely you're not saying I shouldn't try the best for my son. It's almost certainly a lie. He did not take that accommodation to help his son. He took that accommodation, he took that free gift, that's very expensive, free gift, the year's salary of many people, because he just wanted it and he felt entitled to it, and it was a nice penthouse, because like all left-wing people, ultimately, Keir Starmer is a narcissist. He is a person that feels negative feelings very, very strongly, feels that he's awful. He deals with this by telling himself that he's morally perfect. The moral system that we have at the moment is wokeism. So he tells himself that he's woke. He makes himself try to think and believe and come across as woke. Thus, he gets narcissistic supply of being told he's morally good, and thus he feels good. And narcissistic people are entitled like this. They feel they deserve the best. They feel they're better than other people, and they deserve it, and screw them. And if they deserve a bit of luxury, and if they've got a rich friend that's going to give it to them, then fine, they deserve it. That is what he obviously did in 2021, and it's what he obviously did more recently as well. And I suspect, because he's obviously not very bright, he's obviously not very intelligent, he's obviously, despite his dullness...
Are you ready for the future of the West?